Audioaddict 2, Pop Star Incoming. One of my most profound life desires has been that I always wanted to be a pop star. Not because of the groupies and drugs, but because of the visuals, the eras, and the creation. I wanted to be the male version of Madonna, except not as sensual and sexual. I wanted to tell stories, craft memories, and titillate the masses like any good pop star. My mother told me that I concocted chimmery pop lyrics from a young age. On the Right Side was apparently the first song I ever wrote in kindergarten, according to my mother. You didn't know how to type, so you had to sing your lyrics and I would type them out, my mother explained. My uncle and I did a couple collaborations when I was young, including my mother's favorite song, Millennium Force Is My Source, which was an ode to Cedar Point. Between my limited memory and young age, I don't have much memory of these songs, but my mother has kept the rare CD release. So in 2010, I finally decided to screw what society said and chose to overlook my current limitations. I had grown up singing, having been trained religiously and classically. I was a writer at heart, so crafting lyrics and songs involved little to no work for me. The dancing part, well, that was fine. I was certainly no Michael Jackson, but with the right training, I could impress at a dance club or even make it backstage at a Broadway show, just maybe not on stage. The mixture was present. It was just piecing the puzzle. I found an online music maker and spent hours piecing together beat pads and selections. My first 4 albums were mainly created with loops. Eventually, I would begin to wade into the school of music production. All of my projects have been done in-house, from mixing and mastering to executing the graphics and marketing. Even within the rougher moments of my career, there was a level of authenticity. Breaking out into pop music was my Hannah Montana becoming Miley Cyrus moment. I was shedding behind the choir tracks of Ave Maria for my debut single, Electric, where I crooned A, Electric, over an EDM beat that could best be described as the musical equivalent of cafeteria cardboard pizza. Like electricity, my high school buzzed over the release. Even now, some classmates chant the chorus. This, to me, was a confirmation that, if anything, I could write catchy music. I wanted to showcase a variety, so following Electric came the rap track Ring Ring. The song featured obnoxious phone sounds over what could best be described as SoundCloud rap. I continued to confuse my fan base with the third single, a torching piano ballad, Drowning World. The fourth single, who did I think I was to have this many singles before an album, was a rock track called Zephyr. Zephyr was inspired by Madonna's Ray of Light song, and my mother was immediately concerned. That sounds like a copyright issue, my mother pointed out one time when I was telling her about it. A copyright issue? I questioned. Yes, you're stealing her lyrics. No, I gasped, offended that anyone would think I would plagiarize art. I'm just inspired by the word Zephyr. Just don't get sued, my mother said, imagining the worst, which was an impossible situation. My mother, over the years, has always kept an eye on my music career, the way I assume the Queen of England eyed her grandchildren. She referenced it once while I was on the hunt for a job. Are they going to look into your social media and see hot intern and all that crap? My mother said, which caused me to gasp the way people did when they saw Madonna roll around in a wedding dress on the MTV VMAs. Crap? I questioned. Well, you know what I meant, my mother said with a hurt expression, as if I had insulted her original music. Just like that stuff. The fifth and last single before my debut album was the title track, Beautiful Amazing. Yes, my first album was called Beautiful Amazing. The fantastic and beautiful thing about that title was that I didn't consider myself either of those things back then. I was definitely insecure, as most high school boys are. But that's the beauty of having a pop artist persona. You can become the things you lack. I lacked that incredible sensation of self and beauty I would later claim stake within. I didn't feel beautiful or amazing in my ordinary life, but under cover of Reebstar, I was whatever I wanted to be. It was like starring in karaoke every single day. I would perform live at a school open mic and miniature concerts in Mr. Murphy's Latin class. I don't think I held myself too seriously, and I think some people thought they were laughing at me, but I maintain that they were laughing with me. I've always been powerful, even when I'm not strong. I'm a storyteller and entertainer at heart. even in moments where I'm singing alongside the instrumental in front of a smartboard on the second floor of my high school building. I was always in charge of everything. I started working on my second album immediately after Beautiful Amazing hit the internet by storm. By storm, the kind where they say it's 20% chance of rain. Originally, the second album was going to be called Dark Insane, an inversion of Beautiful Amazing. The pop music expert in me knew that my sophomore release had to continue my persona, but provide something different. From my limited memory, I remember writing some really dark pop tracks. One title called Bisect comes to mind. This album was quickly scrapped for a different concept album called Wunderbar. I don't remember where I heard the word, but I instantly fell in love. It was a play on the German word for wonderful and sounded like my last name, Hribar. Wunderbar was a bit darker and featured my inner demons pictured with various masks. These masked demons were the personas of manufactured Matt, chaotic Matt, conformity Matt, and defensive Matt. In retrospect, my artistry was therapy. I was feeling very conflicted during this period. Even with this upped popular status, I was clearly an outsider in high school. I was maybe royalty when it came to the outsiders, but I was still an outsider. Funnily enough, I think that theme didn't communicate itself through the singles and music video campaign. But there is a song on the album called 5v1 with a Marvel News broadcaster music bed. The 4 different insecurities each deliver a rap and a Nicki Minaj-inspired personality battle. The song is absolutely a wash, but it was pretty creative. Most of my life can be summarized similarly. The lead single for Wunderbar also became my first music video, DFR, Dangerous, Frisky, Risky. The song had surging bass and arpeggio, where I almost channeled The Weeknd, although this was before his arrival on the scene. Dangerous and frisky, definitely risky, I'm a party animal in the club. From a 16-year-old who had never stepped foot inside a club, bar, or any party attraction, felt disingenuous. But weirdly, this song felt legendary, considering the inaccuracy of the lived experience in the song. The music video for DFR was epic. I couldn't even tell you who it helped, but it involved me being stoned to death for my wicked ways. It was a cliche that I still utilize in my music and art today. I'm a sucker for a martyr. Although it looks like people are throwing rocks at me in the music video, people were actually throwing grapes. I can't even imagine what the school staff thought had they caught the scene in action. The second single, Can't Mess With This, caused a lot of buzz when scenes of me in the chapel leaked. It was one of the biggest scandals of the fall semester. Thankfully, I got the weakest slap on the wrist ever. I just had to make sure to take down the music video. They had to create a new rule about art and media creation in the school chapel. The video also featured shots of me putting pins in a mannequin head blended with the chapel scenes and was slightly disturbing. The dark visuals continued with the third single and music video, The Return. The song was a ballad, and I wanted to feature visuals without me in them. I created 2 cityscapes out of cardboard. The plan was to flood one within this old aquarium my family never used, and then set fire to the other one within the old aquarium. It was actually a beautiful idea, and the mix of cardboard set against the rising tide of water and the increasing flames turned out to be one of my favorite videos I've ever done, even if the song doesn't hold for the rest of time. My sister helped, and I remember being very concerned for fire safety, so we had just a bucket of water ready for when the fire got too dangerous, frisky, and risky. The fire seemed in control until it cracked part of the glass. Immediately, we doused it with water. My film teacher loved the video and showed it to our film class. The cinematography is top-notch, he told the room at large, which stirred up both pride and embarrassment. Eventually, we would watch 72 hours in his class, and I would pass out, only to be brought to life in the hallway with some water. In revisiting Wunderbar over 10 years later, I didn't realize just how much rock and alternative sounds were all over my early work. There were plenty of lyrics that I could easily see being reincorporated into a rock band. You were an innocent pretender, and I cannot even remember what it was like when you were my friend. People just don't understand what they call contraband. You made me your rival, and our lives began to spiral because you seek power. My third album, Reflections, was released only a couple of months later. At that point, I was really inspired by Bjork, so I leaned experimental with songs called Catalyst, Shatter, Transparency, Prism, and Crystallization. A couple of the tracks leaned on alternative rock, which is still a genre I have not fully explored. I have to hand it to myself. Even in my more avant-garde and wildly unlistenable moments, Reflections was a 6-minute song that revolved around a harp, the concepts themselves were entertaining. I want to be reflections of my former self. With a harp and minimal electro beat, sounds like something Lorde would have loved. Some lyrics would elevate a Katy Perry pop track. We can unite. We can bring the color. I'll be the light if you'll be the prism. There were even some attempts to harmonize on Prism, which was ambitious. The funniest thing I noticed when listening back to Reflections is that I had labeled it under the New Age genre. If this is genuinely New Age music, then we can condemn contemporary music. While certain songs absolutely escape me, others are like stepping into a warm bath. Winter, the last track of the original print of Reflections, is 100% inspired by U2's song White as Snow, both thematically and in production. There was a period during my senior year when I was working on a collaborative EP with my friend and fellow classmate Craig, but a problem developed when Craig realized I had no proper musical background. I was a pop music puppet trying to figure things out, while Craig was a bit more of a legit musician. Craig was expecting bourbon, and I was only capable of apple juice. Following an experimental album, it was time to double down on my pop roots with a concept club mix album called M&F. Although my mother thought M&F stood for motherfucker, M&F stood for masculinity and femininity. The album concept was about perfection. I had a delicious backstory on why the title connected to the album concept, but now I feel like it was a bit try-hard of young Matt, although still appreciated. Even now, I don't understand why the title is M&F. You could feel the theme of perfection through the names of the album singles alone. Can't Be What You Want Me to Be, Becoming Human, What My Dancing Heart Shed, and Running Away from the World. And if those don't make you think I was dealing with the concept of perfection, maybe titles like Indestructible Castle, Didn't Succeed, Free Fall, Rising Blood, Don't Fall for Pretty Pictures, and Invisible, parentheses, It's Better This Way, close parentheses, provide that context. This was the second rebrand of the original Reebstar stage name. I had gone by Hribar in a move that was inspired by Kesha, but for this album, I simply went by an asterisk. It was a Prince-type strategy, but doubling down on how easy it was for me to tear things apart. The 4 singles got music videos, which were pretty easy and tame, except for my favorite, Becoming Human. The song is about how it feels like a failure to showcase human imperfection. It involves a chase sequence where an animal masked intruder was tracking me down. By the end of the video, the masked animal man had tackled me to the ground. He unveiled it to reveal it was myself behind the mask, before donning maskless Matt with a mask. Pretty neat, and a little predictable. M&F had one of my favorite album rollouts because this was still when CDs were a primary method of sharing music. I had burned 30 copies of the album, complete with printed out album covers, and passed them around to the biggest fans. I rolled around campus with CDs like I was delivering Valentine's chocolate instead of subpar pop music. The first 4 albums had been unoriginal productions that I tried piecing together, but utilizing my Mac's laptop's GarageBand and Logic Pro applications, I began to push myself into original production, chord arrangements, and sounds. I remember being fascinated with these programs and playing around with the synthesizers and drum kits around the clock. Part of the reason I developed 6 albums over that year was that I spent every second learning about production. My subsequent 2 albums came out that summer following high school graduation. I struggled between my poetic nature and comedic side, which I still do. I often find myself juxtaposed between leaning into happy, funny concepts or deep, poetic concepts. The 5th project, Southern Gentleman, was dubbed my first mixtape and featured a rougher persona. This was where the gloves came off. Whereas before I had danced in vagueness and explored myself in the general society around me, I was now airing all sorts of laundry, clean and dirty. The lead single, Stalk My Tweets, was based on someone's complaints about my Twitter account. The chorus feels like a modern digital media nursery rhyme. Stalk my tweets, stalk them well, make sure that you go and tell. Imagine singing that to your child to have them fall asleep. Stalk My Tweets marked a significant lyrical and attitudinal change from the earlier albums. It was also sonically a bit different than my earlier works. The Stalk My Tweets music video featured the introduction of Mary Lou Sanders, a concerned resident inspired by the person who tries to report Matt. The video has many highlights, including a collection of me posing by various street signs, Mary Lou purposely looking for art to ban, and a group of sassy tweets that honestly are concerning. The second single was Assassinate, in which a 17-year-old Matt sings, "Come and assassinate, Caesar, Lincoln, Kennedy, all controversial, all killed like me." It's a bold choice for a teenager who has never been assaulted or threatened with death. The music video is an excellent farce in storytelling. Concerned resident Mary Lou Sanders returns, but this time she's too frustrated and tries to hire various assassins to kill me, Matt Hribar. Naturally, I play the trio of assassins, all who fail and end up dead from incompetence. Thankfully, the music video labels the characters accordingly. Otherwise, it would be easy to confuse me, with me, with me, and with me. The best scene in the Assassinate video is when one assassin plants a bomb within a soccer ball and rolls it towards me. I end up kicking the soccer ball right into the hands of the assassin. The screen cuts to stock footage of an explosion so fake for the narrative that you can't help but appreciate how cheesy it is. I look back on the tracks of Southern Gentlemen and I'm just confused. There are songs called Bring It and Bowl, which makes sense for some cocky attitude over rap beats. But there's a 49-second interlude called Miss Grendel, who I assume was about some older lady. My sixth album, Explicator, combined orchestral sounds with rock and alternative pop. An explicator is someone who makes clear the meaning of an explainer. The album includes Hollywood, an easy admonishment of fame culture, Renegade, which labels me as such, and Street Crosser, a dark number involving my love of the night. I don't think young Matt knew what Street Crosser actually meant. Analyzing Explicator years later, I think I was interested in storytelling. Thematically, there was a lot about religion, so bells and church-esque instrumentals were mixed into a lot of the tracks. The album also features my foray into long songs. There's a 6-minute Confessions, a loaded up organ and staccato mess. The 7-minute song Regicide and Dayside, about a king who thought he was a god. And of course, the 8 minutes and 53-second long track Illusions/Revelations, 2 songs that sound like a dramatic overture for a sad indie movie. The videos took place at iconic scenic institutions around downtown Cleveland, Shaker Square, and my parents' house. My favorite song would have to be History Personalized, a piece about how we embody the history of the world and ourselves to become the person we presently are. It's a deep song that's delivered with shallow production. The most popular video for Explicator was the 6th single, called Cheater/Liar. Sequences of the film were shot at the IdeaStream building in downtown Cleveland. Parts of my body were wrapped up in cords. It was a dual metaphor for the ties of a relationship and how cheaters use digital communications. For a legitimate pop star, this is a great visual for the album. I just love the chorus. One classmate from college told me before yodeling the refrain, "Cheater, cheater." It was not one of my memorable choruses, but you can't deny the howling cheater over and over like some acid trip psychic isn't a vibe. Heading into college, I was propelled into working on 2 sister projects. The first was Spirits, an ambient soft electronica that featured a lot of poetics. Elliptical Orbit was about a pseudo-relationship where 2 people continued to orbit around each other. The song received a music video of me on a dark stage, singing along to the lyrics. Simple and classy. Grave was a video of me walking around a graveyard. That one was one of my more on-the-nose moments. Spirits had a lot of tracks that just smell of incoming pretentiousness. Binding Bounds. Okay. Dangerous Faith. That title alone screams homosexual. Higher Movements. Okay, scale it back, E.E. Cummings. Under the Bells. Sounds like a terrible place to be. Beautiful Wounds, another Lana Del Rey moment. Diadem, It's Just a Crown. And maybe my favorite crazy title, Heaven is Limestone. While Spirits was spiritual and about the world with very faint sounds and ambiance, Core was the opposite. Core was hard electronics, not danceable but grimy and violent and filled with personal introspection. It was divided into 3 acts, the opening song, Crust, the middle track of the album, Mantle, and the last song, Core. It was sort of a Dante's Inferno, but with questionable pop music. The lead single, Langolier, was taken from a Stephen King book about alien creatures and a story about monsters in Chardon, Ohio. The song told a story about people who got murdered in the woods, a la Cabin of the Woods. The chorus built up to a catchy but grammatical fail. We are gone, you may not, never know. In the video, I was kidnapped, a ghost appeared, and stock images were glued onto straws that became memorial crosses. We printed out Google Common Rights images of people and pretended they had been abducted and killed in the song. The darker visuals and sound continued with Blood, Flesh, Bone, a video that featured me holding a pumpkin and masquerading as a drug dealer on campus. I can't believe I suckered tens of people to play my various clients, who agreed to be filmed with me passing them bags of drugs, which were spices that I bought at the corner CVS store. Of blood, flesh, and bone, you will not grow, you will not live forever. I entered my hot topic phase with some straightforward honesty. The first two singles leaned into a darker concept, so Group Ambush was chosen as the third single. Where the former two depicted dark truths and stories, this song was simply about the times I had socially ambushed friends and family. The video features me literally getting into a fight with someone. The last single remains a cult favorite. How I'll Eat Your Heart pushed the boundaries in sound for my image. The song was anchored by a guitar riff and opened with the lyric, when you leave me feeling dead, when you take my love and bed. Significantly, as the guitar cut into a swirling synth, I shrieked, how I'll eat your heart, how I'll eat your heart. The pop persona would have made you think that I had been heartbroken. I don't even think I had gone on a single date in my life at this point. The video was stark. It featured an opening monologue as you follow the curves of my body to find out that I've been tied up on a plank of wood over a mattress. It served 50 Shades of Grey before the movie and books hit the mainstream market. It ends with a bandana stuffed into my limp mouth with another monologue voiceover, because why not? When I revisited Core, this being my 8th album, I could tell that some progression was happening. Things were slowly getting tightened up, and we were only 2 years deep into this musical exploration. There were a couple of songs that could be reworked into something decent if you squinted your ears. Spirits and Core had acoustic EPs of the songs, probably some of the worst work I've ever distributed. Those songs did not need acoustic versions. It was like trying to take Dollar Tree macaroni and cheese and pass it off as high-end pasta. With 8 albums to my name, there was only one thing to do: release a greatest hits album with new material. The album cover featured 3 Matts posed in sexy clothed positions, all with bandanas and dorm keys wrapped in a necklace around my neck. The lead single and new song, Break, was a 5-minute thumping anthem that featured distorted beats that would sound good if polished up. With a synth topper, I command in the refrain, will your heart break in my crashing wake? Will your heart break? This is what I'll take. One of the reasons I love the music video is that because it featured choreography with some friends. I really must be charming for them to agree to make some backwater dance moves that I concocted. However, things had been too happy, and thus we were thrown into darkness once again on my 9th album, Volatile. If there's a piece of early work that represents some of my favorite moments, it would be Volatile. There were some depressing songs and some dark imagery, but it had a bit more prowess than earlier songs. Most of Volatile featured piano, and the songs were built around the piano sections. I think it's the closest I've ever come to being Tori Amos or some other pianist who writes poetry. The lead single, Vitality, was about my struggles with beauty. The topic is presented harshly, utilizing eating issues and workouts to represent the visual of perhaps one of my more bleak choruses. To win in this contest, you need to sacrifice everything you've possibly considered. Character is fine, same with personality, but adapt to attract to find perfect vitality. Analyzing this song a decade later, I think there's more being said in that line than I realized. The direct implication is that looking beautiful was the most essential part of the contest of dating. But underneath, there's this connection of health with love, as if being in love or being with someone was automatically healthier than singleness. I wish to say that was the darkest theme on the album. Nevertheless, tracks like I Hate Loneliness, Loneliness Loves Me, Never Find, parentheses, a lover, close parentheses, Friendless, and oblivion are the equivalent of tying yourself to a boulder and jumping into a pond. Some people were worried about me, but even in my darkest moments, I didn't think I was at risk to myself or others. I just find that art is a place to express these small baubles of emotions that might feel unwanted or troubling out of context of art. Volatile's themes of loneliness and anxieties open up with a pretty piano ballad called Biopic, which starts the album out with, "Pretty little pictures flutter all around me, smother my own lifeline, never let me be." It's almost a call to explosive social media that can decimate self-image. This album came out a couple months before I decided to reinvent myself, cutting off my moppish hair and trading bulky glasses for contacts. It's almost like I pulled a The Simpsons writing staff moment in predicting my issues in real time. Even with one of the harshest song titles I've ever had, Never Find, parentheses, a Lover, close parentheses, has some of the most gorgeous synth lines of my early work, and also features some of the heaviest lyrics I've ever put out. I can be what you want, desperation. I can be what you need, dissipation. I'll make you worth a home run, deliberation. Oomph, talk about desperation. Upon listening to the song, recently one line jumped out. Inside, I love who I am, but externally, I want to slash it out. I hear these lyrics now and thankfully don't relate to them as much anymore. Some of the other songs were dark without a subtle, direct context. Wolves Howl Alone was a piece comparing myself to a lone wolf figure. Deny was about a crush that I felt was a denial. You hate yourself, but I could love what you hate. I look back on that lyric as an older human and can't help but roll my eyes at what 18-year-old Matt believed. Riptide followed a favorite subject matter of mine, water. Baby, you're a riptide, cutting me down to size, force me to tell you lies. Not my best rhyme scheme, but haunting when delivered with lush aquatic synth pads. Treason was a story about two lovers escaping their unsupportive hometown. One main road with four side paths, clutching on the lot of a building of wrath. There's only one shop, they don't get by. Baby, in this town, our love is going to die. I almost imagine this dusty, wild town left to abandon. The song evolves into this explosive chorus. If this is treason, we'll have our reason. Let's run away before we're martyred at the stake. Another powerful song, Convenience for Nothing, was written about two friends dating who were totally wrong for each other. I grew frustrated and wrote the initial draft about this idea that they were dating out of convenience. It's both a song about how I would never want such a relationship, but how those inconvenient relationships aren't allowing themselves what's best for them. You have convenience, but is that what you want? After 14 mostly depressing songs, Volatile ends on a song called By the End of the Night. This album is filled with sadness, stickiness, uncertainty, lonely pain, and inexperience dripping from a teenager on the cusp of adulthood. But it all melts away with the final song, a string-laden power ballad about letting it shed off of you. Everything you've ever learned will go. Empty your head, chop all you know. I give you more than I ever did for my adolescence, adulthood, when I was a kid. By the end of the night, we'll be feeling all right. It's a little clunky, but the image is there. If there was one older album I could re-up, it would have to be Volatile. There are tricky and complex themes, but dark beauty within its messages of volatility and loneliness. I've actually gone back and played with some of the concepts of Volatile in my modern music. The song Stranded Islands would be referenced in a track called Tsunami off my 2020 album Mountain Faller. All these stranded islands on the sea have turned me kind of lonely. After Volatile, which dripped with depression and verged on being impalpable, the following three projects involved some lightness. The next album, Eager and Passionate Hearts Club, was a nod to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. While Volatile commiserated my lack of suitors and glaring singleness, Eager and Passionate Hearts embraced it. We weren't lonely, we weren't sad, we were eager and passionate, totally different. The lead single was one of the more sensual innuendos in my career. I Want Your Six was designed to shock audiences, but the lyrics talk about wanting 6 things from someone. Those 6 things are not explained. Bad storytelling on my part. The song itself was dark and murky, with deep-pitched vocals saying 6 in the background, but it sounded more like the word it was masking. The video features me on top of a rolled-up carpet, an ingenious move on my part to utilize natural construction. It also features a futon scene, a scene with a ladder, and a white wall with multiple mats existing at the same time, all in black and white noir, as if emulating Madonna's erotica era. The second single was the title track, one of my more forgettable songs in music videos. A loud guitar riff cuts through the track, while the video featured blurred faces and me teaching people about club membership. The third single, Four Hearts, was about a ruined relationship that ended in heartbreak, but the plot twist was that I had more than one heart. So even if you broke one heart, 3 others were waiting there. The chorus softly and yet powerfully chanted, "I got 4 hearts wrapped in cellophane, 4 hearts that destroy all my pain." The video featured different versions of myself in cellophane and aluminum, as well as a search for my 4 hearts. The video opens with a warning text message from a friend that my hearts are being sought after, so I must recapture them. One heart was located in the book Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, another heart was in a brochure, another in a woman's sock drawer, and another behind a Mac. And before you say, was that intentional, or I have no clue. The last video was for a song called Obsessive, about an obsessive partner. It featured me playing the stalked and obsessive partner, outfitted with the bold glasses fake mustache combination. "You're so obsessive, making me aggressive, ooh, ooh, obsessive," is crooned over a cheap EDM beat. Eager and Passionate Hearts Club had 22 songs that balance between bops like You Will Lose Me, Lucky Duck, Sweet, Salty, and Sour, and some real somber ballads like Win, Lose, Win, Heart Roots, I Could, parentheses, Learn to Love You, close parentheses. While it's arguably one of the worst songs I've ever done, my song, If I Looked Like Sarah Jessica Parker, was about looking like Sarah Jessica Parker and thus ensnaring people with my beauty. I don't know why I wrote that song after Sarah Jessica Parker. I was, and still am, unfamiliar with her personality and work. My favorite songs on the album comes down to Thunder Thighs, which sampled Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls, Thursday Night Special, in which I promised to be someone's Thursday Night Special. Take it as you will, whether that's a stripper reference or maybe a Thursday Night Wings special. The song that takes the cake is McDonald's Wedding, which I wrote about the frustrations of people casually approaching marriage. Marriage never lasts anyway. It won't be a day you retain on to. McDonald's can cater all of your affairs before secret lovers and arguments do. Ouch! I would become inspired by the sociological theory of McDonaldization, which talks about how the qualities of fast food have soaked into our overall existence. That would be a much more polished song called Fast Food Love Style, released in 2021. Songs for Tea Time was a small project that featured what some friends consider my magnus opus. Sorry Mama, parentheses, I'm in love with a Republican. The song was inspired by my friend group's conversation in the college cafeteria. I could never date a Republican, my friend Jade told the table at large. Never. This was back in 2013, a slightly different era for Republicans than the current one. I don't know, I might be able to, I said, more so to rally against the ultimatum than to personally find out. The conversation spun out with many opinions, but I went back to write this sultry bop about someone who had to confess to their mother that they were marrying a Republican. Immediately, I wanted to cast my friend Jade as the mother character for the video. In the video, I visit Mama in her apartment, which was a dorm room. My character had taken the train in and had left the ring behind because of train theft. Mama, there's something I have to tell you. I've sinned, my character says with a flare of anxiety. Tell me, what's wrong? Jade asked. Mama, I'm getting married to a Republican. There's a dramatic pause while Mama takes in the news before yelling, "Oh, hell no!" and rips me down to the floor. The rest of the footage involves beating me to death, intercut with stairwell and shower scenes for visual flair. When I think of the top videos of my pop music career, this one ranks top 3. It's so realistic. You look like you're being injured for real, friends would say after watching the video. I really was, though, I muttered. Jade was actually beating me to a pulp in that video. In one of my more reachy moments, there was a song on Songs for Tea Time called Quinnipiac Love Song. I had a brief encounter with someone from Quinnipiac and thus wrote this passionate could-have-been love story for the album. Sometimes I wonder if I'm too emotional, and I see songs like that and go, oh, I'm really off the chain. Album 12, Hydra, was considered my second mixtape project. It had 27 tracks, the most I've ever had on one album. Many songs were quick interludes or choruses surrounded by long rap verses. By this point, I had discovered that having more potent recording equipment made more sense. When I released Hydra, I felt more confident in my abilities than before, even though I still had a long way to go. Hydra had a lot of innovation, both in subjects and sounds. A bold song called In Your Mouth featured 3 female rappers, or friends that could rap, and Baked in a Pie sampled a nursery song about people being baked into pies. Belligerent featured deep reverb vocals over my favorite concept of being a controversial figurehead. There's a song called I'm on a Conference Call that samples phone calls and rings with lines like, "You're in my business, it's like getting calls on Christmas." My favorite songs would be towards the back of the album. Girls is about relating to the feelings of the women in my life. I have some concerns. It's a song that could use a bit of editing and rewriting. Girls are just like me. We fall apart at the seams. Oomph, a little mansplaining meets generalizing there. But we separate into teams. Ah, women who don't uplift women? Our lives are echoes of our dreams. Okay, I can dig into that. It does feel like a feminist anthem that needs a bit of a touch-up. A minimalist psychedelic track called Highway 71 pines for freedom and exploration with a partner. Empty like ego, fried like Crisco, got less in me than a glass of espresso. That's actually a decent line. A dreamy, floaty song called Burn My Pyre continues to double down on this theme of being an attacked public figure. He will die tonight, mostly because he's mostly right. He's too honest for me, so I'll burn his pyre for all to see. Did I think I was Jesus or something for putting out outrageous music? Another bottom-level song, Rap for the Children, closes out the album. Nothing I've ever created should be shown to children. Also, what child asked for a rap? It's a bold assumption. Album 13, Echelon, was actually instrumentals from an abandoned project called Solstice. It was the first and only project that didn't feature my vocals. The songs tended to lean on breathy synthesizers and acoustic elements. I took 2 years off of music after Echelon. I wanted to explore other projects, like the second season of my reality show, Reebcam. But then even my YouTube channel went inactive for a while. I remember producing music at this time, but sitting on it, maybe a little embarrassed by the constant output of material that wasn't often received well. Over the years, there have been many forgotten albums. Albums I made and created and never shared or finished. Albums that got deleted or improperly stored, existing only in memory. I did a lot of work on 2 albums called Affect and Effect, which blended social issues and psychological themes. I had an album mapped out called Have You Had It, which was very suggestive, with tracks like Electroshock, in which I compare a relationship to electroshock therapy. There was another project called Ministry, a concept album about a government takeover a la George Orwell's 1984. That project involved a lot of dubstep. One track, called Excalibur, contained many tongue twirls over dub bass lines. Another project, called Schism of the Night, featured dance beats, twinkling bells, chimes, and synths. No under the bells happening here. I returned in 2015 with my 14th album, Father Time, which was created simply because we had a Greek life talent show, and I was practically the only one in the fraternity who had anything of talent that could be harnessed on stage. The EP featured 5 songs. Father Time, about being a master of time. What's Your Major? A song about people demanding to know your major, which I would interpolate for a future song called Where's the Manager? There was Too Good For You, a sassy anthem that I recently recreated. Politico, a rap with the thesis that your butt is so whack that it's Politico, which is whack because it's Politico. The album ends with a ballad, Passion Mark, which compares an ending of a relationship to hickeys. I promise, the song holds up better than the explanation. And then I went on hiatus for 3 years. I don't know why I stopped writing music again. I was still writing, but was focused on stories and scripts. I can't remember the exact song that I wrote first after this break, but I think it was Grenadine. Grenadine was a song about dreams, and Grenadine would become the title for my 15th album that I released in 2018. Diving into my more contemporary era of music feels a little self-indulgent. It's exciting to turn ancient concepts into new things. Old ideas evolve into new images. Songs destined for a new disco album called My Personal Disco rolled into my sociological album, Social Detective. I had a few leftover beats and lyrics from my Game Over album, which morphed into my Bop City album. And there are so many albums I wish to make. I would love to do a folktronica concept album about a cult. a really aggressive electronic concept album about nuclear fallout. I'd love to do a sports-themed album, a philosophy pop album, an actual house album, an 8-bit album, collecting genres like little tattoos. It's not even about how good they are, it's just about doing them. Would I complain if a song blew up on TikTok and rocketed me into some weird vein of comedic sexy pop music? Trust me, I'd close a club down if such a thing happened. But realistically, I don't expect accolades, cash, or notoriety for what I do. I just do it. But don't tell Nike I said that. They might sue me.